Hello everybody, my name is Dale Kiddick and I'm with the University of Wisconsin Safety Department Fire Extinguisher Shop. I'm going to take a few minutes today to show you the different fire extinguishers around UW campus and what kind of fires they'll put out and how to identify them. And at the end of the video I'm going to take another few minutes and we're going to do a little talking about fighting situations, when to fight a fire, what to do if you decide to fight a fire. The first extinguisher I'm going to show you today is the one that's the main hallway protection on campus. That's the multi-purpose ABC dry chemical fire extinguisher. You shouldn't be able to walk anywhere on campus without running into one of these every 75 feet per code that the state adopted, which is NFPA 10. Operation's real simple on this extinguisher. All the extinguishers have a tamper seal on the top. The first thing you want to do when you're going to use the extinguisher is get rid of that tamper seal. In real life, when you guys are going to fight a fire, you're probably just going to grab this pen and yank it through, and that'll work. You can either grab the flag and yank it, or you can just take the tab and turn it like a car key and it's going to break that seal. The next thing you want to do is pull the locking pin out. And this is something everybody does, so you want to watch out for it. When you're pulling this locking pin out of the extinguisher, make sure you're not squeezing the handle, because what will happen then is you'll lock the pin, and it sounds stupid, but everybody does it. So kind of just relax, put your hand under the carrying handle, and pull the pin out. Now, this extinguisher is rated for all the three main types of fires, which are A, B, and C. A is normal combustible, wood, paper, rubbish, anything that leaves an ash when it burns. B is flammable liquid, and C is electrical fire. And with an electrical fire, anything that has electricity introduced to it is automatically classified an electrical fire. So if you have a box of pallets that are like 3 feet high and somebody left a drill on the edge of it, you have to think of it as an electrical fire. Anyway, this extinguisher is rated for all three classes of fire. If you don't remember those classes of fire, don't sweat it too much. Every extinguisher that's made now or is on UW campus is going to have a little pictorial on the front that tells you what that extinguisher is rated for. And that's right here. And if it has a little slash through one of the different icons, that means it isn't rated for that type of fire. Okay, back to operation of the extinguisher. You've got the flag seal off, and you've got the pin pulled. Next thing you want to do is pull the hose out. There's a little acronym for that. It's called PASS, pull, aim, squeeze, and sweep. We'll get to the sweep part in about 2 minutes here. When you decide to fight the fire, keep in mind that this extinguisher, the 10-pound ABC, has about 195 PSI. The extinguisher itself has a maximum range of about 20 feet. You don't want to be any closer probably than 10 feet when you're using this extinguisher. Main reason is it's a lot of pressure coming out of this little nozzle. And if you walk into a lab that says it has flammable liquid in depth or something, and stick it 10 inches away, you're going to geyser flaming liquid over your head. So always start back about 10 feet with the extinguisher if you can. Grab the hose. Aim at the base of the fire. When I say the base of the fire, I mean that's the point below the flame and above what's burning. That's the point you got to hit with the extinguisher. A common mistake most people make with the fire extinguisher when they use it is they'll just take the extinguisher and walk in the room and go like this, or they aim right in the middle of the fire. And that's exactly what you want to do, especially with flammable liquid fire. If you don't sweep back and forth across the flames, what happens is the fire will just flash back and forth above the chemical stream and keep reigniting itself. So it's really important to get about 10 feet away, aim at the base of the fire, squeeze the handle really hard. That's another really important point. A lot of people think that this is like a trigger they can push down with their thumb, and that's not the case. This is, like I said before, you're working against 195 PSI, so you got to really put some pressure into this. If you have weak hands or carpal tunnel or some other reason that you can't press this together, what you can do is lay the extinguisher on the ground, hold on the hose so it doesn't get away from you, drop your whole weight onto the handle to get it started, and then approach the fire. Okay. So once again, you got all that done, you pull the seal, pull the pin, you approach the fire, about 10 feet away, start at the leading edge, squeeze the handle as hard as you can, sweep across and sweep back, and the fire should be out. Now, this is a really effective extinguisher, the 10-pound ABC. This one has an 80B rating, which means that in the hands of a novice firefighter, this extinguisher is going to put out 80 square feet of a burning liquid 2 inches in depth. So it's a great extinguisher, it's going to put out everything. So you're thinking, why would you ever need another extinguisher? The main reason is this one is unbelievably messy. And there's a lot of places where we have labs on campus where you have $1 million worth of gear, and if you grab the extinguisher out of the hallway to put out a wastepaper basket fire, you're going to do a lot more damage than is really, granted, you might make the room get fully involved if you leave the fire, but what we do in those cases is we put a clean agent inside the room, and hopefully you'll see that before and use that before you use the hallway extinguisher. The clean agents of choice on campus are the CO2 extinguisher, carbon dioxide, and halon. I'll go over the CO2 first, because that's the main one we use now. Carbon dioxide, where the dry chemical extinguisher actually puts the fire out by a combination of cooling and chemical reaction, carbon dioxide puts the fire out by actually robbing it of oxygen. CO2 just displaces oxygen. So, first part of the thing is the same. Grab the flake seal, give it a yank, pull the locking pin, making sure you don't trap it. Now, the main way you can always identify that you've got a carbon dioxide extinguisher is it does not have a gauge. And that's because CO2 is in a high pressure vessel, and the pressure actually fluctuates with temperature, so that you can have a gauge on there. When we inspect these, we actually inspect them by weighing the extinguisher, and that's how we tell if the CO2 hasn't leaked out in it. So you pull the pin, pull the seal. Now, because CO2 comes out as a gas and not a dry chemical stream, you have to be relatively close with this, about 4 to 6 feet instead of the maximum of 20. So you're pretty close to the fire. The fires you're going to use CO2 on are probably going to be fairly small fires. We'll go over that a little bit later. Any fire you fight with an extinguisher is going to be a small fire. But carbon dioxide, 4 to 6 feet, approach the fire with it. Another mistake people make with carbon dioxide is this extinguisher, the 10-pound ABC I talked about before would go for about 20 seconds if you didn't start and stop the stream. The 5-pound CO2 is going to go for about 7 seconds. And there's a big brother of this called a 10-pound CO2, and that's going to go for about 10 seconds. Now that doesn't sound like a lot of time, but that's plenty of time to fight any fire you're going to fight with a fire extinguisher. So get at the position where you're actually going to start putting the fire out. What I was going to say before is the mistake a lot of people make is they'll grab this off the wall and start discharging it as they walk to the fire. Well, if it's only got 7 seconds of agent in it, by the time you get there, you're going to be out of CO2. So make sure you're at the point where you want to put the fire out. Aim at the base of the fire again, squeeze the handle really hard, and just with CO2, just like you're laying a soft blanket on top of the fire, just let the CO2 come out and settle over it. Now it's pretty dramatic when it comes out. It makes a lot of noise and makes a big white cloud. Don't let that startle you. Just lean back, relax, and let the CO2 settle on the fire, and it'll put it out. I'd say we're 90% of the fires that have been put out with extinguishers on campus were done with this extinguisher when somebody has something flare up in a hood. They'll grab the CO2 extinguishers that's on the side of the hood, and they'll put the fire out with it. And it works really good for that. Okay, the other clean agent that's out there is Halon. We do a lot of training on campus. We don't train with the Halon anymore because it does have an ozone depletion potential, which is it's a CFC. So it's got an ozone depletion potential that's roughly the same as CFC 12, the stuff that used to be in your old car air conditioner. So it's pretty potent. It stays in the atmosphere quite long. It was never outlawed, and when it has maintenance done on it, all our vendors have 100% recovery, 99.9% recovery systems. So when they take the Halon out, they don't lose any into the atmosphere. But that's why we don't demo it anymore. But if you have to use one of these, that's a real effective agent. The reason they're still on campus is the CO2 doesn't have quite the rating this one does. This has a 5B rating, which means it puts out 5 square feet of the burning liquid. This one's up there on a 40, 60B rating. So you got the clean agent plus all the fire part of the big 10-pound ABC. So you're going to see these in mainframe computer rooms that have millions of dollars worth of high-tech gear that they can't take a chance of losing. And operation's the same exactly as the dry chemical. Pull the hose, pull the seal, pull the locking pin out, get about 10 feet away from what you're going to fight, squeeze the handle together, discharge the agent, sweep, and aim at the base of the fire. The main difference is going to be that Halon comes out. It's going to discharge as a liquid that's almost turned into gas the minute it hits the atmosphere, and then it evaporates. When you hit, you can dump this right into a computer, and it's not going to leave any residue at all. The CO2, when you use that, it's going to leave a little bit of dry ice if you get close and concentrate in one spot, but it's probably not going to do any damage. If it leaves any, dry ice on anywhere, it's probably been on fire anyway, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. Okay, so that's the Halon extinguisher. Now there's one other extinguisher, or a couple other extinguishers are out there that you may never run into, and I didn't even bring them along, but I'll just mention them real fast. One is a Class D extinguisher for metal fires, so you have sodium or lithium fire, and you'll find those in specialized labs on campus. And they're usually a big yellow extinguisher with a wand on it that sits on a cart because they're 30 pounds and they weigh a ton. And if you ever have to use one of those, use it just like the dry chem. Pull the seal, pull the pin. The only difference is metal fires tend to be really small and isolated, and you don't have range with the big extinguisher. What you're going to have is a wand on it. So you just lay that wand over it and bury it with the chemical until it stops. And that's how those work. The other one extinguisher that's out there on campus that's a different class is a Class K. And they made those just in the last couple of years because they found out that the dry chemical, when they switched over to more in the old days, it used to be animal fats for cooking oil, and they switched to vegetable fats. And they found out that those burned a lot hotter, and the dry chem was not putting them out sufficiently. So they came up with a new agent for that, which they call Class K. And that extinguisher looks about this high, and it's stainless steel. And it's always put next to fryers on campus. So if you see one of those, that's what they're for, if you work on a campus kitchen or something. Now, that's the different extinguishers on campus. I'm just going to take a few moments now and do a little bit talking about what to do if you do encounter a fire on campus, and when not to use an extinguisher. If you do, how to do that. Extinguishers, like I mentioned before, 20 seconds, 7 seconds time, the other one 10 seconds time. You're thinking, wow, that's not a lot of time. It's plenty of time to put out any fire you're going to put out with a fire extinguisher. Fire extinguishers are just real first aid firefighting. You guys, anybody on campus, we don't have fire brigades. Nobody's been trained that way, so it's not a deal where somebody's laying on the ground and people are handing them extinguishers and they're fighting the fire. It's not the case. It's something you're absolutely sure is in the initial stages. You feel totally comfortable with putting out, and that you've already pulled the alarm and the fire department's coming to back you up. So once again, that's the main thing. Pull the alarm first. Make sure everybody's getting out of the building. If you still feel comfortable after training to grab the extinguisher and put the fire out, go ahead and try it. But make sure you've got that alarm so the fire department's coming to back you up in case you're unsuccessful. If you go and look at the fire and it's spread around in different areas around the room, or there's smoke and you can't actually see flame, and you're having a bad day, you don't feel good about it, you're not sure you have the right extinguisher, no problem. Get everybody out of the room, pull the alarm, pull the door behind you, and get out of there. And it's really important to pull that door behind you. A lot of the doors on campus are fire rated, and it's amazing how that'll isolate the fires and give the fire department time to get there and keep it in that room and not let it spread down the hallway. A couple of things to remember about fire extinguishers. If you do decide to use one, always make sure that you have an exit right behind you so you can duck right out the room after you shoot it off. Dry chemical extinguishers, when you shoot these off, the agent inside is called monoammonium phosphate, and it's ground so fine that when you shoot them off, you're not going to see anything in the room. It's just an amazing mess. When you couple that with the product's combustion involved in that too, it's a big mess. So you're not going to see anything after you discharge one of these. Excuse me. So you want to make sure that you have an exit right behind you and you can duck right out. If you do use one, always stay low. Make sure that there's a huge difference in a fire situation from here to here. So you don't want to be breathing any products of combustion that are in the room while you do this. Probably if the fire is that big, you shouldn't be fighting it anyway. Remember, personal safety is always the main thing when using one of these. Another thing to remember with extinguishers is when you use these, kind of keep them relatively straight up and down when you use them too. What a lot of people do will kick them off to the side like this, and that's a really bad idea. In the old days, there used to be an extinguisher out there that was called a soda acid extinguisher. They'd actually pick up and bang on its head to start. Those days are gone. These are charged to here, they're filled rather here about this far with the chemical, and then the rest of the way they're charged with the nitrogen gas as a propellant. And then you have a siphon tube that goes down the middle. If you kick them too far off axis, what's going to happen is you're just going to end up discharging the nitrogen, and the chemical will lay next to the siphon tube. So make sure you keep them relatively straight up and down. Also, if you're out on campus and you look around and you see one of these extinguishers with the seal broken, or you see a little bit of powder down on the ground, or the gauge looks low to you as you watch by and just notice one, make sure you give us a call at Safety Department. All the extinguishers on campus have a little inspection tag on it that lets the fire inspector know the extinguisher has been inspected, and it's going to have the names of the technicians on there who have done the inspection, plus it's going to have our number that you can call us. So if you're on campus and you ever see an extinguisher that looks like it needs to be worked on, give us a call. We'll come over and replace it the same day. I guess that's all I have for you. So if you have any questions, give me a call, or my partner Don Siebert at Safety Department, and we'll be happy to answer your questions. Thank you.